Gitex in Dubai. Happy to be Zeus Kerravala from ZK Research. Welcome to the show, Zeus.
Thank you, Dave. It's always, like I said, it's always a pleasure to be with you today.
So we spoke earlier in the week. Now we're towards the end of the show. Tell me, we're in front of the Avaya stand. What have been the big standout highlights for you this week?
Yeah, I think actually what's been a standout to me is the actual customer examples it has. It's easy for a vendor to come up with a vision, they announce experience builders, but one of the things I was pleasantly surprised with is they actually have a lot of customers and partners here building things using the concept of experience builders. So I think when you look at how Avaya's progressed over the years, one of the constants actually has been at Gitex, the number of partners and customers they always have co-resident in the building.
Let's talk about that journey. You've been coming to Gitex for a number of years.
Yeah.
How have you seen Avaya turn itself into this cloud company we see before us today?
Yeah, it's been a long transition for the company, right? This is a company that a lot of people thought of historically as an on-premise company, and let's face it, they were that for a long time, but then they shifted to subscription, and now they've shifted to a fully composable back-end cloud, the Avaya One Cloud, and so obviously, given the install base they had, they couldn't just flip a switch overnight and say we're going to be on the cloud. That would be highly disruptive to its customers. So one of the things about Avaya, particularly with this region, they're extremely customer-centric. And so they weren't going to do anything that disrupts their customers. And so in some ways it was a slow, methodical transition to cloud, but they had to do it at a pace that their customers were comfortable with. And understand, Avaya's got, one of the things that's underappreciated about them is they have a lot of the biggest companies in the world as their customers. I think all top 10 banks in the world, all the big airlines and things. And those companies aren't going to flip a switch overnight. So I think their transition might have seemed slow from the outside, but I think it was in the best interest of their customers in mind.
Sure. Well, let's talk about their cloud today. Then Avaya One Cloud. That approach is slightly different to maybe some of the other participants in the market. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it is, because most of the industry, when you say cloud, right, they mean SaaS. And that's, to me, that's a very narrow definition of cloud. And Avaya's taken a bit more pragmatic approach in understanding that the future is going to be hybrid. Now, you might look at that and say, well, Avaya's only doing that because they have a large on-premises space. But the fact is, if you look at the strategy from Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, even Salesforce and AWS, they all have private cloud stacks. Right? In fact, at reInvent a couple of years ago, I had a Q&A session with Andy Jassy, the CEO of AWS at the time, and I asked him, why are you, AWS has been the poster child for SaaS and cloud computing and private cloud segments, because that's what our large customers want. Every one of our large enterprise customers wants a private cloud. So why in this industry do we feel we're so different that customers aren't going to buy it that way? And so I think, again, given Avaya's install base being the biggest of the big, and the companies and brands we all know, I think their strategy is differentiated because it is hybrid in nature. So right now they can deliver the answer to the question, how we deploy communications is cloud. Right? The follow-up question is what kind of cloud, and that's going to be different per company, but they can really deliver it any way the customers want.
And the other product that we're all talking about this week is, of course, Spaces. We're seeing some interesting use cases behind us with Spaces. What's your view on Spaces and where that's going?
Yeah, I actually like Spaces. I think it's a very underrated product, but I think one of the misunderstandings of Spaces is it itself isn't really the product. Right? One Cloud, CPaaS is, that's our programmable backend. And so the easiest way to think about it, Dave, is CPaaS is a box of Legos, and Spaces is simply an example of something you can build with those Legos. Now, I think one of the interesting customers here is a company called Toolwire, and they actually took pieces of pre-built Lego and they built it into the platform. So they had a synchronous learning tool, or sort of an asynchronous learning tool, and they needed to add synchronous learning, video, things like that. So they took those Spaces components and very quickly built an application to address the future of education. And I asked them, how long would that have taken you with the old technology? And he said, 2.5 years. And how long did it take you now? He said, 6 months start to finish. Polished product. They had a working product in 2 weeks. So that kind of shows the flexibility of that. And I think when you talk about composability in this industry, to me that's the best way to think about it is, when giving you a box of Legos, for some people they may be happy with the pre-built kit, but for other companies, they're going to want to tweak that a little bit or just completely rebuild it themselves. And so that's what is new. When you ask about spaces, again, think of that as just an example of what you can build.
So obviously, Avaya, they've come a long way. How do you feel about the future of Avaya and where they're heading, their unique approach and their various products you can see behind us?
Yeah, well, look, realistically, they're never going to be the kind of high growth engine that we've seen from some of the startups in the space. They're too big a company with a big install base. But I think in the communications industry, their most valuable asset is their customer base, right? So as long as their customers are moving along that journey to modernize, and COVID accelerated that, right? You're seeing a lot of the big brands, and maybe you weren't thinking digital before. Everyone's thinking digital today. So I actually think the company's better positioned than I've seen them in a long time, because they've always had the customer base, but now they've got the product and they have the customer's willingness to transform, and so they can take them along that ride.
Zeus, it's great to talk to you again, as always. I wish you best of luck with the rest of the show and a safe flight back to the States.
Oh, thank you, Dave, and safe flight back to the UK for yourself.
And thank you for watching. You're watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today. If you like today's conversation, please give us a like and share it on social media. Thank you for watching.